Sequels aren't easy. Film sequels end up straight to DVD, or a streaming platform nowadays, I guess. Big bands fold to that tricky second album, and gaming sequels are just as likely to destroy a series than create one. But sometimes gaming sequels do the unthinkable. Not just matching the originals that spawned them into existence, but surpassing them through clever gameplay mechanics, sweeping story narratives, or sometimes simply by recreating what made the original so great in the first place. So while you tuck into your latest selection box and turkey sandwich, kick back with us as we look back at 5 video game sequels that were even better than the originals. Spyro the Dragon 2, Ripto's Rage. The original Spyro the Dragon was an absolute smash hit for the PlayStation. A sassy purple dragon collecting treasure and taking down the nasty bad guys while gliding over colourful platforming worlds was always going to be a winner. So Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, or Gateway to Glimmer depending on where in the world you were from, had big wings to fill. Spyro 2 has a more engaging story with a far more charismatic villain to chase down. We barely even see Nasty Nork in the original, whereas Ripto's presence is almost constant throughout the world you explore. Spyro has tighter controls, charging and gliding feel much more satisfying and responsive, and the boss battles actually provide a challenge. And it adds a set of skills to Spyro's kit, gliding, swimming, climbing, head bashing, that requires you to actually backtrack through levels you've already visited if you want to collect everything the game has to offer. And the gem goblin in me wants to collect all the shiny things. It's a better game in every single way, and the fact that it was bundled up with PlayStation 1s, I still have the game case that bundle came with to this day, proves that while the original is great, it can't hold a flame to its fantastic sequel. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Uncharted Drake's Fortune was one of the PlayStation 3's very first exclusives. A technical marvel and a showcase of everything the PS3 was capable of, which back then was quite a lot. Look at it. I can see the snow sticking to Nate. Look, it was a different time, alright? So when Uncharted 2 Among Thieves took everything Drake's Fortune had and whacked it up a notch, our jaws were firmly nailed to the floor. Cinematic and truly outstanding visuals for the time, a blow-the-doors-off Indiana Jones-style world-affecting story narrative that cranked up the stakes of the first game, and a proper mix of beat-em-up and aim-and-shoot gameplay, Among Thieves was a critical and popular smash hit. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception continues all the good work we'd grown to expect from the Uncharted series, but Among Thieves was a true step up to greatness. And is there any better adventure game opening than waking up on a mountainside, attached by your shoelaces to a train carriage, hanging over the raggedy edge to oblivion? No, there isn't. Pokémon Gold and Silver. Pokémon Red and Blue are certified gaming classics. Sure, they're not masterpieces in game development by any means, but the simple turn-based rock paper scissors style gameplay and iconic pocket monster designs are fondly remembered by 90s babies worldwide for a reason. And yet, despite my universal love for Kanto and everything in it, I'm a Gen 1er by every single metric. Gold and Silver were undoubtedly better than the original games. What Game Freak pulled off with Pokémon Gold and Silver is nothing short of a gaming miracle. An impossible follow-up that improved on the originals in pretty much every single way. Gold and Silver added 100 new Pokémon as a start, continuing Game Freak's stellar run of monster design with classics like Feraligatr, Umbreon, even Dunsparce has a cult following nowadays, and that was before the Dunsparce was ever a thing. New features like Pokémon breeding and Pokémon being able to hold items for the first time changed the competitive scene overnight. Team Rocket returned for another round, shiny Pokémon were added to the games and you were guaranteed to meet one with Red Gyarados, and we got 2 new types in Dark and Steel to complicate the rock paper scissors type chart in unique and engaging ways. And just in case all that wasn't enough for you, Game Freak wrote a love letter to every trainer who had played the original by including the entire Kanto region, which was accessible after beating the Elite Four, rounding things off with possibly the most hype endgame boss in Pokémon history by having you battle Red, your original character from the OG games. How's that for a sequel sticking a landing? Bioshock 2. Look, Bioshock 1 was fantastic, don't get me wrong. An FPS with an actually engaging story that was as bizarre and mind-bending as it was fun to play, but Bioshock 2 blew the original Rapture experience out of the water. Not only do you play as a Big Daddy, an enemy you spent a lot of time in the first game desperately trying to avoid, with all the power and dangerous abilities that entails, but you also have a clearly defined reason to be doing what you're doing. You're missing a little sister, so you'd better go and find it. Rapture feels like a more lived-in place, or at least it was, and the audio diaries do a lot of heavy lifting and world building around what went wrong in the underwater city before things inevitably went dark. Bioshock 1 might have had different endings depending on how you approached the original, but they were way more limited. It was very black and white. Are you good or are you bad? In the sequel, your moral choices have real impact. Impacts you get to see the consequences of throughout the entire endgame rather than just the final cutscene. Bioshock 1 made us fall in love with the game. Bioshock 2 made us fall in love with the series. Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. A curveball worthy of the twisted marsupial, we're going with a third entry for our final entry, and Crash 3 Warped was as good as Crash Bandicoot has ever been. The original laid the groundwork for the series with its wacky and colourful platforming levels, and Crash 2 Cortex Strikes Back added a lot to love. The crouch and skid mechanic, warp rooms that would become a staple for the series until Crash 4 finally hit our screens some 13 years later, but it was in Crash 3 where everything finally came together. It fixed all the problems of the previous games, making Crash's controls the best they'd ever been, adding a super spin attack that would allow Crash to pull off ridiculous jumps, had the hardest death routes of any of the games, upped the boss battle quality significantly, and featured some of the most varied and well-loved level designs in platforming history. I even liked the driving stages. Yeah, I said it. Crash 1 may have done the groundwork, but Warped was where Crash Bandicoot hit his peak, and not even Crash 4 can compete with the true crescendo to the original trilogy. So there you go, just a few gaming sequels that were way better than the originals that inspired them. Let us know down in the comments if we missed your favourite video game sequel. Check out these videos for some more festive gaming content, and we'll see you in the new year. Thanks for watching.